Hi, my name is Bonnie Barker. I'm with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and this is part 2 of how to read a crochet pattern. If you haven't looked at part 1 yet, I'd encourage you to do that. It explains a lot of what the little acronyms or abbreviations mean as we read through this pattern. I may take a minute or a second here or there to explain it as I go along, but if you need more detail, I would go over part 1 first. Okay, in this section, we're going to learn how to make a scarf. And I'm going to be using, for our pattern, an actual published, printed 4-pay pattern published by Leisure Arts. The title of this is Noggins and Necks. In this booklet, you'll find 10 crochet designs that I did, and each design matches another. In other words, each scarf will have a matching hat and vice versa. We're going to do the 2-stitch hat and scarf set. If you have this booklet, it's actually on page 8 and 9. And here's a picture of the item we're going to be crocheting today. We are going to start with the scarf, and part 3 we'll talk about how to crochet the hat using the instructions step by step. Okay, the first thing we want to do is look at the information in the pattern. The first thing you're going to see is this little bar that tells you that this is an easy pattern. And that is why I've selected this one rather than anything more complicated to begin with. It is easy if you're a beginner and you're familiar with the basic stitches, the chain, single crochet, double crochet, slip stitch. You should be able to do this pattern without a problem. If you've never completed a complete pattern before, I would start with the scarf, because the hat is something that is a bit more fitted and you need to make sure your gauge is correct. The second thing it shows you is finished sizes, and it will show you the approximate size of the garment if you follow the direction. First, it has the size for the scarf, 6.5 inches wide by 60 inches long. Of course, if you want to make the scarf longer or shorter, that is totally up to you, and you are the crocheter. You do whatever you please there. And below that, it has the size for the hat as well, which we're not going to do in this video. That's going to be in part 3. But it does tell you that the hat circumference is 21 inches. Okay, next, look at materials. This is important if you want the hat in the next video to fit, but it's also important using the scarf so that it comes out the proper size. You don't want the scarf to be, you know, meant for an elephant or maybe meant for your Barbie doll. You want it to fit you, hopefully. It tells you that under the materials you need medium weight yarn, and you'll see that little symbol there, and it has a 4 on a ball of yarn. Most yarn for sale will have, especially in big box stores such as Walmart, AC Moore, Michael's, stores like that, it'll have a little symbol on the label, and you want to get any kind of yarn that has a little 4 on it. That's a medium worsted weight size yarn. And inside the parentheses it says 6 ounces is 312 yards. That is the type of yarn that they used, and what that tells you is at the bottom there it says 2 skeins. So you're going to need 2 skeins of yarn or balls of yarn that have at least 312 yards in it. Now, if the skein of yarn that you pick only has, let's say, 100 yards in it, you're going to need to buy a lot more of them. So what I normally do is, if it says 2 skeins and then it has 312 yards, I would multiply that 312 yards by 2. And that would give us, what, 624 yards. So whatever you can find at the store that will equal a minimum of 624 yards will give you enough yarn to make this set. And more importantly here, you need a crochet hook, size J, or the size needed for your gauge. What is a gauge? I could spend an hour talking about that, but I'm going to condense it down to about 1 minute here. Look at the next section. It says gauge. And in the pattern, 11 stitches and 10 rows will give you a 4 by 4 inch square. So what you would need to do is crochet a swatch. And below that it says gauge swatch. Okay, it says work same as scarf row through row, same as scarf through row 10. If you're a very beginner and you don't have time to do that, it's okay with me if you don't take the time to do that, especially since you're going to be doing the same thing as the scarf. But as you're doing the scarf, and if you find that your gauge is coming out smaller than what they recommend here, if your gauge after 10 rows is not 6.5 inches wide and 4 inches high, then you might need to switch your crochet hook to, if your gauge is smaller than that, you're going to want to bump up to the next size hook and see how you do. If your gauge is much larger than that, then you're going to want to go to a smaller hook, because everybody crochets differently. Just keep that in mind, that the way a pattern, when a pattern calls for a particular hook, don't see that as written in stone. See that as a very strong suggestion, and see what you do on the gauge, and then adjust your needle size in order to meet the gauge requirement. Okay, here we go. We're going to start with the scarf, and the first thing it says is to chain 19. So we actually are going to get to the yarn here. We're going to start with the slip stitch. I'm sorry, yeah, hook, okay. Not a slip stitch. We want to start with the slip knot. If you don't know how to make the slip knot, I do have another video on YouTube or on my website. If you're on my website, it's under the beginning stitches, and you can learn how to do the slip knot. Then it says to chain 19. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Notice what I just did there. I usually count by fives. That keeps me from, getting too confused. I count 5, and then I reposition my left hand, 5 more, 5 more, 5 more, etc. Okay, now let's look at row 1. It says single crochet in second chain from hook. Let's just do that much of it. We're not going to crochet in this chain, but it's going to be the second chain from hook, which is right there. So we're going to single crochet there. And the next thing it says is DC. Remember, DC means double crochet in next chain. So we're going to form a double crochet. Okay. Now the next thing it says is in parentheses. Whenever you see parentheses, usually that means you're going to be repeating what's inside the parentheses a lot. So it says single crochet in the next chain, double crochet in the next chain. So we're going to single crochet the next chain, double crochet in the next chain. And since it's in parentheses, we're going to do that all the way across the row. Across the row. That's what the across means at the end of the parenthesis. Okay, so, and this is where they get the name, the two stitch. Is you're doing 2 stitches. You're doing single crochet and double crochet alternately all the way across. Now, as simple as this may seem, some of the people that I've tried to teach this to have had a hard time because they, just make one little mistake, which can throw you off completely. So you want to make sure that you do single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet, all the way across the row. Okay, and so I don't have any special ending instructions for this row, so it will just end with a double crochet. Okay, so let's stop and see what we have. Okay, so this will be the first row. Okay, now let's go on to row 2. Row 2 says chain 1. So we're going to chain 1 in and then it says to turn. So we will turn our work, and then it says single crochet in the first double crochet. Okay, we've done that. And double crochet in the next single crochet. Double crocheted in the single crochet. And as you'll see, the smaller stitch goes on top of the larger stitch, and the larger stitch goes on top of the smaller stitch. Okay? And then after that, inside the parentheses, it says single crochet in next double crochet, and put a double crochet on top of the single crochet. And we're going to do that all the way across again. I will finish this row and then I'll get right back to you. Okay, now I've gotten to the end of my row. I wanted to show you what we have so far. We have 2 rows, and I want to show you something that's really cool about this pattern. It is totally reversible. It doesn't have a front side or a back side, so you don't have to be, too careful about that. Every row is going to be the same. So let's go ahead and read the next section where it says, repeat row 2 for pattern until scarf measures approximately 60 inches from beginning chain or to desired length. So that's giving you a little bit of freedom there. You can make this scarf as long or as short as you want, but we're going to have to repeat row 2 again. So let's repeat row 2. Row 2 says chain 1, turn. Remember, single crochet in the double crochet in the single crochet. And then inside the parentheses, it says single crochet in the next double crochet in the next single crochet. And since it's in parentheses, we're going to repeat that same thing over and over again, all the way across the row. Single crochet on top of the double crochet on top of the single crochet, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet. I know I'm doing these a little faster than I have in some of my other videos. If you want to slow down and see what a single crochet looks like and take time to learn that, I would recommend going back over some of my other videos that I have. I do have one specifically on single crochet and one on double crochet. Actually, one on all the stitches that are mentioned here. Okay? So I'm just assuming that you have enough knowledge to be able to do that. So I just want to show you again what a nice texture this makes. And all I have to do is keep repeating that row 2 over and over again, and then eventually I will have a scarf. I hope this is helpful. Stay tuned. Part 3 is coming. We're going to learn how to make a 2-stitch hat set, or the hat part of the set. Take care. Bye-bye.